Hello and welcome to Zirkzank Says. I'm back with another episode of me drawing, as I said I would do every day. This is day 3. I'm back with this background music. The background music in the previous video got struck for copyright, so I've got a strike with that now. So I'm just gonna stick to using the old Kevin MacLeod with his Airport Lounge, royalty-free jazz music, no good layabout, shades of spring, opportunity walks, awesome call, and hot swing. These are like the intro and outro pieces. These I don't know. I really like this soundtrack. It's very nice to listen to. Anyway, to the drawing. I've made a little outline actually of what I hope to achieve from this year. At minimum, I want to improve on the stuff that I'm bad at. So I'm bad with perspective and depth. That is like, in the case of character art, that would be, for example, I'll show you what I mean by that. Like, so characters who are posed, for example, let's pretend this is this is a person. So I've drawn a person here. Now, it's a very crude person, but let's say this person was like holding a sword and looking away at like I don't know. See, I can't even begin to draw. I can't even begin to think of how I want to draw this. Right? Let's get like a pose going so that the character is kind of stood, sort of. Is this how it be stood? They've got their shoulders with the sword, holding a sword. Like, I don't know, but I struggle with the perspective. Like, for example, pretend this is I need a person, or with a sword, for example. Here's a sword from. Here's like a really rough sort of sword from the front view. Now you tilt the sword forwards a little bit. What happens? The hilt becomes wider. This bit would become a little bit more like pointed, like this sort of style, and then this bit would be a little bit fatter, but kind of pointed like this, and you'd be able to see more of the pommel. Like, that's perspective. It just looks like the previous thing but squished. Now, I know what a lot of people do for perspective is that they choose a vanishing point. They make a vanishing point, and then they draw lines from the vanishing point. So then you've got like perspective. I don't know if that's a vanishing point, or if that really works as a vanishing point. Vanishing point's more like you're kind of just drawing away from a point. What am I doing here? What is this? Like that's a vanishing point. So if you imagine this as like if I was to draw a cube in here, the cube would follow with the vanishing point. So here's the front of the cube. Now, like, that's the front of the cube. The front shouldn't really change too much. I suppose it kind of would. The cube would kind of change slightly if it's like a cartoonish cube. So anyway, this is the front of the cube. Now, the inside of the cube would follow the line, everything with the vanishing point. I kind of drawn this cube a little bit too. What's the word? Too close to the vanishing point. So then, now the depth of this would be something along the lines of that, and then something similar over here where that follows this and that, but because it's higher I guess it goes further. It wouldn't do. I'm just making shit up. So that is your box. Then you get rid of the vanishing lines and you fill it in and stuff. Although I can't really do that now because of the way I did it. But yeah, you can see clearly that I need to work on the depth and perspective. So like the position of the camera. Like, let's go with the box example again. This is a box with the camera is like looking at it from the front. So then if you put the camera's like spot on from the front with this, well no, the camera being from the front would be like that with this cube. Now if you want to put the camera at a slight angle from below the cube, like how would you do that? The cube would sort of look kind of like it's like, ooh, big scary cube. So like the cube is quite, in that case would be quite I don't know. That, what I just drew there, was not supposed to be the lines that are at the top. That was supposed to be some kind of face. I was gonna draw a face on the cube, then I realized that you can't see it's a cube otherwise. Now this just looks like you're looking into a box. This could be like, this looks like you're looking into a box, so you could put stuff into this box like from above. But what I actually was trying to draw was like, this is a thing you're looking at, so like a person would be stood with their head looking at it, looking at this in front of it. But I can't draw that because I don't know how to draw perspective. Something else I struggle with, shading and light. That's yeah, shading and light is another thing like perspective and depth. It's very just, I think you need to have an art for eye that I just don't have. Like I'm not exactly sure how to demonstrate this. I think a great example would be to just have like a sphere and maybe a cube, as I just draw another cube. Practicing drawing cubes, is that a great way to learn art? I don't know. You're gonna have to help me out. If you know some shit about drawing, then please let me know, because I need help with this. There would probably be like a line or something behind these shapes to illustrate the fact that they're not just nowhere, they're somewhere, kind of. Now, shading. To demonstrate shading, I will use two examples. The first example is this kind of like block shading. Well, right, for shading you need to pick a light source and a direction. Let's say the light's coming from up here. The light's coming from up here. That's simple enough then. You have like the white point, which would be there, and then everything else from that white point outwards would be dark. For this particular example then, I guess I could just put the light onto here. There we go. That's a light point on here, and on this cube the light hits it, but well, it's a cube, so you know, one side would be a little bit darker, and then the top would be not as dark, or the front would be fuck. The front would be slightly dark, or I don't know, and there wouldn't be a light on it so much. And then with this, you have like a section where this is darker. Fuck. The ink pen. That would not be dark enough. So, well, there's my that's my where I'm gonna shade this. There we go. That's shading. See, I don't even know the first thing of shading. So these are very simple shapes. This is a ball and a cube. Now, transfer that kind of lack of ability to shade anything, and now just now put that onto something like, for example, the shading that would go into muscles on like an arm, which I can't draw for some reason because I'm on the wrong layer. That's why. Yeah, this is the there we go. This is the line layer. Right, they pretend this is like this is an arm. I don't know. There are like bits of arm that I don't know. This is that's a thumb, and here we've got some fingers on this. Right? How do you shade this fucking thing? I don't even know where to start. I would say, like, you've got this kind of shading that you can do, which is the same. I don't know where the fuck to. There we go. Well, that doesn't work. This is what I was looking for, the airbrush. Except it's on the spread, so we set that to simple circle. Here we go. And then density needs to be 100. So no, the density needs to be 0. Then you can't see it. The density needs to be 50. Then you see it when it overlaps itself. That's not great. Fuck. Yeah, so for muscle, like, I don't know, you have like the whole shitting going on with that stuff. Then there's like cell shading, and then there's this kind of shading where it gets lighter and lighter as you come up. That's quite difficult to do in sight with my settings and the sensitivity that I have with this brush. Like, I'm not sure how to control advanced settings. Here we go. Hard, soft. Change the density but not the size. So that's what's the minimum. The minimum density is 0% with nothing. So I'm pressing down nothing at all, and then it gets well, the sensitivity levels on this pen aren't enough for me to do any kind of like actually effective shading with like in this style. So I have to stick to cell shading with my hardware limitations. But even still, knowing where to put the lines to create the illusion of shadows, that's the difficulty that I struggle with, because like, I don't know, take something real simple, for example. Well, I say simple, nothing is really all that simple, but in this case I'm gonna say this is simple, regardless of whether it is or not. That's it's some kind. I was trying to do a banana, but I did the thing wrong. Right, this is my banana. On a banana, you know, there are those like ridges on the banana, but I would not want to do the ridges with at the top of the banana there's a little bit of a curvature, and then there are ridges along the banana. Now, how do you get those ridges with a fuck, with the lighting brush. This is what I struggle with. Like, that's way too dark on there. Towards the top here, that's fuck that bit up. There's the lines on the bananas, like I was saying before. And then the top bit here should be slightly curved. How the fuck do you do that? I can't do that now because I've just scribbled over it, but shading is something that I will basically... Fuck. I'll never be able to do shading. You know, never say never and all of that, but shading is definitely not one of my strong points. Color is... I'm pretty good with color. Coloring in and color theory, just because I understand color theory to some extent, that what colors go well together, cartoon color palettes, and so on and so on. That's my banana. See, I can't do this. I've got an actual banana that I can use for reference to try and get the lighting right, but using reference always makes things even harder for me, so I don't draw with reference. Maybe that's something that I should try and learn how to do. Drawing with reference. The other things I struggle with, sketching, poses, and framing. I say all those at the same time because they're kind of linked in some sense. I can't do sketches, I can't do poses, and I can't do framing. Framing is kind of linked to perspective. So like you imagine a camera position, you imagine a vanishing point, a horizon point or whatever. You imagine foreshortening of the character's arm and... Why is my outro music playing? I'm not even finished with the video. Let's get back to Airport Lounge. So yeah, as I was saying, there are a lot of things that I struggle with. I'm decent with the lines, decent with color, and decent with texture. So like, I can paint the texture of something. If I look at certain textures on literally anything, I can figure out a way to get the colors and roughness and shininess and grooves and detail, you know, like the cracks on leather, the bumps on, just I can do texture, I can do color, I can do lines. Can't do shading, can't do perspective, can't do poses or framing, and sketching is something I really struggle with. Like, I see a lot of people doing that sort of sketchy kind of, whatchamacallit, sketch shit. Let's fucking clear this. Here we go. Sketches. By sketches I mean this sort of like, say for example, if they were to draw a face, they'd do like this this kind of like I don't know. I don't even know how to do sketches. Well, some people do these like lines and shit. Like, here we go. That's a sketch of a. That's a sketch of like a head. You know, I'd put my. Well, these aren't sketching really. This is guidelines that people do. So they do like, oh, I put my eyes here, and the mouth here, and then they'd go onto another layer with a darker color, and then sort of draw over the sketching with like an ink pen and be like, oh, so I put my lines here as my reference points, and my head shape go around it, and and then they'd be like, oh yes, now so that's how I drew with my sketch. Get rid of the guidelines, and there you go. That's a sketched character face thing. Except I would draw this exactly the same without the sketch, and the sketch just added time. I don't know how to sketch. Like, the sketch doesn't help me whatsoever. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, if I go into another layer and draw something again, Actually, the sketch seems to have helped me with the head shape, but that's just because head shapes are fucking annoying. Yeah, I don't know how to sketch for most sense. The other type of sketches that I see are these kind of like blocky sort of like kind of like the previous sketches, but more like big fat blocky kind of like, here's a head sort of shape, and from the head shape you get like a torso shape, but like, I don't know if this is how you'd even attempt to do this, but well, that wouldn't be how that would look. So you'd just be like, it's the sketch stage, so you go sketch shade, like this is my full body sketch. That's another thing, full body, that's kind of difficult to do. Poses, so characters from different angles, like that's my front view kind of. That's a sketch of like a roughly kind of a sketch of a body. So then you would go into another layer and reduce the opacity of this, and then on this layer, this would be where you're supposed to, I don't know, say like, oh well, the character's arm goes kind of here, and the body goes here. So I'm rushing this bit because obviously I'm just trying to demonstrate the point that maybe the guidelines, remove the guidelines, it's supposed to look like, oh hey, I drew the thing, but I couldn't. Then the next step that I saying that I struggle with is poses. Now, I don't even know how to begin to do this, to demonstrate this. Like, poses are so fucking difficult to even begin to conceptualize that my brain can't even think of a pose. Take my word for it though, I suck at it. Suck at framing, perspective, and depth. Framing as opposed to like what you're actually trying to capture in a picture. So like, for example, you would maybe hypothetically you draw like a person with the head of their torso and stuff, but that's your framing. So like, it's not the full thing that you draw, or something like that. So like, you would have stuff going off the thing. Like my character have ears like this, but the ears aren't like within the frame, sort of thing. Or with how the vanishing point goes, the everything, and like the posing and shit. Yeah, so if I can improve at all of the things that I suck at by the end of the year from drawing, or at some point in my life just from doing practice, I reckon that'll be pretty good. But until that happens, thanks for watching. I'm gonna stick to it.